All right, this is one of my more exciting moments in life. One of the main reasons I wanted to become a pastor was to have relationships with people that I could watch grow up and be successful. And today, I'm with one such person. Denzel Baptiste is a young man that I've known for a long time. And he was just a kid at the church. And now he's grown up into one of the major contributors to the culture, using the hip hop platform to express his creative skills, to make an impact on society, and to use his platform to give back and help motivate other young people. Denzel, thank you for being here today.
Honored to be here.
I can't believe you are you.
Yeah.
What did you do at First Baptist?
When I first moved to this area in New Jersey, I was just, with my parents, but then sitting on the right side, right behind the drummer and the music, I was like, this is something special right here. I think that's what really got me into just even being interested in music, just sitting there and watching the musicians play. So
How old were you when you first came?
I was 10. I was 10 years old.
10 years old.
Yeah.
Sitting behind the drummer.
Yep.
And then you actually got actively involved, though.
Right. So then I think for the youth choir, I auditioned to be the drummer. So then I became the drummer for like a little bit, and then
And a couple of times you filled in for
for
the main
Charlie. Yeah,
drummer, right?
yeah, exactly. That was great. That was like some of the most exciting moments in my life. And then from there, that's how I really got into just like producing music. Just from seeing everything that was going on there, it just really got me interested.
I think I remember you being on the soundboard too, a little
Yeah, I
bit.
did that a little bit. I was upstairs on the soundboard. Yeah, Noel, who was the music director at the time, just showed me the ropes with everything and kind of just like invited me in to learn production. So through the church and through Noel, that's kind of how everything started.
Yeah, Noel Goring was our music director and organist, and he had a lot to do with helping us shape the music ministry at First Baptist. You know, the black church has always been the training ground for culture and arts and music and drama. And many of our biggest names came out of the black church. Unfortunately, we have a new generation that didn't spend as much time in church. But when you find one like Denzel, who did spend a lot of time in church, you can see the difference in their depth, in their creativity, in their passion, and in their outreach to other people. So Denzel, from First Baptist, you graduated from high school, and then you did what?
So from there, I went to NYU to a program called the Clive Davis Institute.
Clive Davis, the major music mogul, the one who nurtured Whitney Houston
Yep.
from Arista Records. That Clive Davis.
That Clive Davis, yeah. So he started a program in the Tisch Art School within NYU, and it seems now looking back, it probably was more of an experiment to have a music program where you're basically training people to like enter the music industry, which in some ways you can't really teach someone how to be like a great musician, but this was more focused around like the business around being a great musician, or building a business around great musicians.
Right.
So
Which most people don't understand.
Right.
We'll try to help them understand a little bit today.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So having that knowledge, in retrospect was very helpful, in just having the network of people there. But yeah, that's where I met my business partner, David Baral, and yeah, we met on the first day orientation, just became friends, and then decided, for our thesis project at the end of all the 4 years, that we would just do it as a group project. And to this day, we're still working on our group project.
So the group project was to form a production company?
Yeah, it was called the Capstone Project. So essentially, in that school, you take different classes, whether it's like music theory or music business, like law, all different aspects within a music business. And we decided to, for our capstone project, to make it about things that we just love the most, which is like travel and experiencing new things and connecting people and music production. So we called it Day Trip, because the idea was that we were going to go to a different city every month and make a song with like a new artist from that city, based on the music that they grew up on, the music that we grew up on, and then go to 12 cities and then make that like a EP and a project, and then just do that. So that was the business plan. That was the project, and it was called Daytrip. And we actually tried to do it. We actually before we graduated, we were like, all right, let's see if we could put this into practice. So when we do this final presentation, we'll have some traction already, and it'll be like a little bit more appealing, because the presentation was actually to other music industry professionals, like lawyers and A&Rs and artist managers. So we were like, let's get some like work done, and when we give this presentation, I actually show them the pictures and stuff of like where we went. So we went to Miami, and that was our first stop, and came back, and that was all of our money. That was it. We couldn't go anywhere else. That was all we could afford to do, and we were like, all right, so we're gonna have to figure out how to do this and pay for this. And then that's what started us making music for other people and allowing them to like buy back the songs that we work on together. So that's kind of like what started everything, and we just kept the name.
So when you say making music, I mean, how does one know when one has the gift of making music? I love music, but I don't make music. How did you know that you could make music?
I think everyone has the ability to. Like, I'm sure at some point you probably heard something or experienced something and thought like, oh, I could have a great idea for a song, right? Like most people do at some point, even if it just happens like a couple times, like, oh, this would actually be a great song. You could almost picture it in your head. If the song went like this, like that would be great. Or you hear another song, you're like, this song's okay, but if it had these things that were different, it would be a lot better. And then to me, the only difference between someone who makes music and someone who just has the idea is like the knowledge of how to actually put it together, and the experience with the equipment and the experience of like what songwriting is about. And then you put that together, and I think it's really not that difficult to make music.
So did you learn some of those mechanics in college, or you learned it just by trying things out?
Well, really, I first learned it at First Baptist at church, just being upstairs on the soundboard. That was my first experience seeing like a mixing board. And
Well, I was at First Baptist.
Yeah. Did you go
You were at
upstairs?
First Baptist. I bought the soundboard. And I
It's a
still
great
don't make
soundboard.
music. I still don't make music.
Yeah, I think it was it's like, well, the initial, I think it also had to do with like my dad growing up being really into computers and technology. Mm-hmm. So I was able to like upstairs at the soundboard really look at it and say like, okay, like, even just looking at this, I can kind of understand like what's going on now. Like this is a channel strip, this is the potentiometer, this is like the pad knobs, this is the EQ and the compression.
By the time you got there, we had the digital board, right?
Yeah.
Because we started with an analog board.
No, I was there for a little bit of the analog board.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was huge, even just seeing that and like, working on music at home and seeing, a different digital version of that, and then seeing like the physical version here and really like understanding like, oh, I could actually learn this. Like this is something that's not so unattainable that I can't, try it if I really want to. So that experience made me interested in trying it and learning as much as I could about it. So for all those years, I was just come home from school and go on YouTube and just watch videos of people doing it. That's like basically all I did my entire high school.
Wow. Okay, now we're talking to Denzel Baptiste, and by now somebody's wondering, okay, why him? So let me fast forward to make sure you understand why this man is so important to the culture and so exciting for me. I know a couple of names. I know the name Lil Nas X. Mm-hmm. I know the name Travis Scott. Name some other people that you've had something to do with in terms of writing and producing music.
Yeah, so definitely Lil Nas is one of the first
ones. Is it Lil Nas or Lil Nas X?
Lil Nas X, yeah. Right, I call him Lil Nas, one of my friends. Yeah, he's one of the first ones that we had a lot of success with. Travis Scott, as you said, Kid Cudi, we've worked with a lot. Big Sean, Dua Lipa. There's a lot, like, and then different, it's working with artists, but then also we love working on like movies. So we did Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, like the first trailer for that. Also GTA, the video game, and now we're working on a lot of sports things. So we're working on the FIFA World Cup for 2026.
Okay, so now, folks, now you know why you need to keep listening. Because this is not just a guy who just went to school and learned how to do some beats. this man has had success in a very short period of time with his partner doing what many of us have experienced, we've been exposed to, but we don't know the people behind the big names. So that's who Denzel Baptiste is. So Denzel, let's go back now. You got started, you formed your company with your partner. You talked a little bit about how you make music. How do you make money off of music? A lot of people write lyrics. I've seen young students walk around with these notebooks in their hands. How does it go from the creative product to a bank account?
Yeah, so there actually are many different ways to make money off of music. And through, learning through school and also just being in it, the different avenues in which like it goes from like an idea in your brain to like your bank account. A lot of them are very antiquated because they were established when making music was writing on a sheet music and having
Right.
a band play it, and you're selling the sheet music, you're publishing the sheet music. So to this day, publishing is still one of like for a writer and producer, the biggest ways of making money. So there's publishing, which incurs publishing royalties. You own the masters, which incurs master royalties.
And every time someone uses it, you get paid.
Yeah, every time someone uses the song itself, you get a master royalty. Every time someone uses the idea of the song, like the composition, the lyrics, or the melody, you get publishing royalties. So sometimes it's both, sometimes it's one or the other. And yeah, then there's, streaming obviously is like a huge part of today's music industry. And
Well, we hear all these things about streaming. I heard Snoop Dogg, for instance, talk about having like 10 billion downloads or 10 billion streams and getting $30
Right.
or something like that. How challenging is it to make money from streaming?
It really depends on the deal that you sign, because basically when you sign a record deal as an artist or a publishing deal as a songwriter or producer, it establishes the split that you have with the company that's investing in you on how much equity you have in your songwriting or your master royalties. So depending on what scale you have, or the advance that you have to recoup, determines how much you make from the streaming. So it's completely dependent on the deal.
And the more success you rack up, the higher the percentage you can demand to be paid in your next deal, correct?
Ideally, depending on what factor of success you're judging on.
Okay. Now, you're with Universal Music Publishing, correct?
Yes, correct.
Do they negotiate on your behalf? Do they market your music? Or do they simply manage what success you already had?
They really just market their writers as
Oh.
as writers. So their job as a publisher is to go out to other publishers or other artists, other managers, TV shows, movies, commercials, video games, and say, I have the perfect person to make a song with you. And they'll say, they do this. I was just with them last week. They're working on this. Like, they would be great. They'll connect with your artist this way. And then that's how that usually happens with the
see.
publisher.
So they create the hookup
Yeah.
between you and the prospective artist.
Right.
You've also done some work with some technology, right?
Yes.
And not just artists. Talk about that.
So yeah, we, like I was saying before, growing up, I had like always a love for technology, and that's probably like my existence in the music industry is half my love for music, half for technology. So yeah, pretty early on, we just started to like reach out to different technology companies and make contacts, and people started reaching out to us. So we've done partnerships with companies like Apple and Native Instruments, and yeah, a bunch of different technology companies in different capacities, whether it's making music for their commercials or working, using their products and giving them feedback, or even helping get products like, across the finish line. So it's been all different types of ways, which keeps it fun.
Because music today is dominated by technology, am I right?
I'd say so, yeah.
I mean, you don't have like big orchestras going into big studios doing live recordings much anymore. I mean, you have some of that.
Some, yeah, but a
But-
lot of it is definitely technology based.
Well, the technology has become so effective. When I was coming along, if it was a synthesizer, you knew it was a synthesizer But then when the digitization of music came along, it was hard to tell digital violin from a real violin.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Right. And I think it's amazing because it gives people access to create art and to express themselves that wouldn't have ever had access before. Like you saying, you saw the soundboard upstairs, but still there's so many other, at that aspect of, analog soundboard, you need a tape machine. You're going to need like to know how EQs work and compressors and all these different factors to like make a song at a certain period of time. And when I was a teenager, it was like, okay, well, if you have a computer, you have speakers attached to the computer. I was using my mom's work computer, which she wasn't happy about at first, to make music, and got a MIDI controller for Christmas, and that's how I did it then. But now, there's 10-year-olds who use their mom's phone, who's been growing up using their mom's iPad, and they download Logic or any other software, and they're able to make a song as like someone in middle
Right.
school, or
Right.
elementary
It's
school.
amazing. It's just amazing. So where do you go from here? You're too young to retire. You reached the top levels of much of your craft. Where do you go from here? I mean, there are things that you want to do, places you want to go that you haven't done yet. Talk
Yeah,
about some of those.
absolutely. Because like I was saying before, our David and I, our interest in being in the music industry was more than just like making songs for people. Actually, in the beginning, we didn't ever want to do that. We never wanted to go into a studio and make a song with like an artist just for them to put out. It was more us being able to essentially make the world feel smaller through music, through travel and going to Nigeria and then going to Brazil and being like, okay, you guys should do something together. We should all do something together. And then making something that's like a hybrid of different cultures. Even still to this day, we've had sessions where, we're bringing someone from Colombia to our studio, and then there's someone from Detroit who's at our studio, and then they come together, and it's like, there's so many more similarities between cultures that I think just from a human perspective, you look at someone from a different place and you're automatically focusing on like what is different
Right.
between us. But the interesting with music to us is that there's so many things that are actually overlapping that you would never really think about, that like, growing up in Colombia, the music that they were growing up on, like old reggaeton, is actually has a lot to do with if you grew up in Brooklyn, you're growing up on reggae, and then like those genres actually blend really well together, and that could like bring those people together that, normally on the surface they may not get along, or they may not see the similarities. So that is really what we have always like sought out to do. And then this process of us working with other artists, we found, okay, like this is a way for us to do this in this in what we are able to do right now, what we have access to do. We can still accomplish this goal of breaking down barriers and changing the way people think about other people through this. So that's kind of like, to us, we just started to scratch the surface on that.
Yeah, well, to be intentional about what many people just say rhetorically, we have more in common than we have different, and to say that music brings people together, but to be intentional and strategic about tactics that make that happen, I think is phenomenal. We certainly have enough need for it in the world today. We have a need on every continent. We have a need between continents where people seemingly have lost touch with the humanity part of humanity.
Right, exactly.
And so that's really admirable, and hopefully your message will resonate and people will see you as a catalyst for bringing those kinds of people together. Listen, I could talk to you, forever, because I just love you, I admire you, and support you. But I'd like to know, in closing, what advice do you have for young creatives, young people, 15, 16, 17 years old? You're not that far removed from being there. I'm sure you feel like time has gone by quickly.
Right.
What should we be telling high school students and middle school students about how creativity opens doors and opportunities for them?
Yeah, I always think about the aspect of doing specifically what you love, you personally as a human, what you love to do. and whenever people ask me about like getting into the music industry and like whether they have to go through this person or they need to, you know, go through these gatekeepers, like the way that David and I really got into it, we got lucky that we didn't have to come up under like someone else and like go through a gatekeeper. We just said like, this is what we love to do and we're just going to do it. Whether we're like successful or not, we're just going to try to do this. And then the success just came over what was like, you know, a pretty long time. Like when our friends were getting jobs out of college, it's like my first job, I'm getting, you know, X amount. And it's like, I just made 2 beats today. It's like, it's like, they're like, okay, cool, loser, you know, like get a job. But
Different path.
Different path. And
But it's your path.
it was our path, and that we stuck to that. And just seeing, you know, from our perspective, seeing so many artists come into the industry and different producers and creatives and managers, the ones who really stick to what they love, even, you know, in and outside of the music industry. I think just sticking to what you love and you have the passion to go through the valleys. Like obviously it's easy once you get to the peak, that's the easy part, but the valley part is where people always drop off, and you can't get through the valley unless you're doing something that you love. So
Now, a lot of people who are creatives are surrounded by people who basically say to them, why don't you get a real job?
yeah,
Right? You know, get up in the morning, get dressed, go someplace, work 9 to 5. You obviously had a support system that nurtured you becoming who you are.
right.
And that makes a difference, right?
It made a huge difference. Yeah, having that support system. I remember my mom going to different people in the church saying, my son makes music, like,
Right.
you know, can he help you with anything? And then they'll be like, yeah, my daughter makes music, like, you know, maybe they can make music together. And then that's how I would, you know, pay for my food. A lot of times my mom just hooking me up with jobs to record people. But yeah, that support system is huge. And even, you know, through the early stages of getting through the music industry, like that first aspect of, you know, needing to make money doing what we love to do. Obviously, there's some parts where we're like, okay, we're going to have to, you know, make a song for like this, you know, fast food commercial that we don't really love to do, but that will bring us closer to what we love to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was the path.
So folks, you have heard from one of the most successful songwriter producers in the world of hip hop, which has become the world. You've heard about his experience in church, and you've heard about his connection in college, and you've heard about the nurture that he received from his family. This is, I think, someone who you want to watch, someone you want to support, someone you want to pray for, and someone whose work is going to impact all of our lives one way or another. So Denzel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being my little friend, my partner,
Means a lot to be here.
and a former member of my church. Great. And I look forward to working with you, supporting you, and being the president of your fan club.
Man, I appreciate it so much. Even just thinking back to how it all started right here and watching you every Sunday, and to be here in the interview with you means a lot.
Great. Great. Well, this won't be the last time. Thank you.
Thank you.